Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to Cherokee Wisdom and Walking in Balance. My name is Cynthia Ruiz, and I am an author, professor, leadership expert, executive coach, city commissioner, and a proud Cherokee citizen. So I am going to be the co-host of this evening, and I would like to welcome my not only co-host but co-author, Abraham Bearpaw, to introduce himself. So please help me welcome Abraham Bearpaw.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Abraham Bearpaw. I'm very excited to be here with you guys tonight. We're going to talk about some really good things, and I'm just excited to fellowship together and pass along some knowledge that I was grateful to receive. Whoa.
So one of the reasons why I've been partnering with Abraham for not only co-authoring the latest edition of the second edition of Cherokee Wisdom 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader, and this webinar is because one of the foundations of the Cherokee Wisdom is really living in harmony and balance. And so I feel with Abraham's input, we have that balance, because not only do you get the masculine and feminine views, but also, even though Abraham and I are both Cherokee citizens, we have very different upbringing. I am an urban native. I was raised in Los Angeles, and he has the experience of being raised in Oklahoma and being more rural. So again, it's really bringing that balance together. But before we get started with the content that we have today, I really start everything with gratitude. So first of all, I want to express gratitude to the Creator. I want to express gratitude to Abraham Bearpaw, my co-host this evening. And in these challenging times, I also want to express gratitude to all the essential workers. You know, we're in a pandemic, which has affected so many of us. And yes, it's the healthcare workers. But when I talk about essential workers, it's also the farm workers that pick the food, the grocery store workers. There's a whole line of essential workers that do their job. So it enables us to be able to be at home and be in quarantine. So I want to express gratitude to them. But even though we're going to be talking about Cherokee wisdom today, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the pandemic for a minute. Because one thing, a lot of people are reacting to this crisis differently. Some people are feeling very anxious. Some people are feeling depressed. You know, some people are affected financially, health-wise, a lot of different ways, and everybody's being impacted in some way. Now, I think for me, my biggest challenge has been the fact that I have not been able to see my 88-year-old mother. She needs 24-hour care, so she's in a board and care home. And it's been challenging not to see her since the beginning of March. So I've tried to work around that, and I FaceTime with her, but it's really challenging when you can't see your loved ones. So I'm going to turn it over to Abraham and ask him the question. Abraham, what has been your biggest challenge during this pandemic?
For me, I think the biggest challenge has been keeping my routine. Once we were let go from work, we stayed home for a couple months. Right away I broke my routine. Every day I would get up, shower, head to the office. And so by getting out of that routine, it kind of threw my whole life out of whack a little bit. And I really wasn't aware of how much I, just really needed that routine. How much it was, how big a part it was of my life. Everybody looks towards the weekend and you're like, oh, my Saturday, my Sunday, I'm going to, watch TV. I'm going to hang out in the yard. I'm going to play with my dogs, and you kind of just, you do your own thing on the weekend. But what about when it's 7 days a week? So that was the biggest thing for me, is even though I wasn't working, was to make sure that I get into a routine that made me feel more like myself, and it took away a lot of the anxiety that I had. Was getting back into a routine. And everybody's different, but for myself, I do really well when my time is structured. When I like, okay, here's what I'm doing from this time to this time. I do a lot better, that way. So I think that's the biggest challenge for me, is definitely is, making sure I'm establishing my own routine during the pandemic.
Thank you for that, Abraham. And the reason why we're sharing our challenges, because we want you to know that you're not alone, that everybody's being impacted by this pandemic in different ways, some more severe than others. But we want to give you hope and let you know that this too shall pass, and we will get through this. So let's jump into the content that we have for tonight. So as I indicated, Cherokee wisdom is based on knowledge from our ancestors. We're both Cherokee citizens, and we actually each have Cherokee names. My Cherokee name is Lion Mother, and Abraham's Cherokee name is Bear. So I call him Brother Bear, even though he's not my brother, but he's my Cherokee brother. So our intention is to share information from our ancestors that hopefully will help you get through this process and help you in your life. Because as Cherokee wisdom has it, we are asked to teach and teach the knowledge that we have to make someone else's life better. Now, we're not saying we know everything, we don't, but we are actually excited to be able to share this content with you. Now, it's not original content because it comes from Cherokee wisdom and our ancestors, but the first thing I wanted to do is just kind of give you a little bit more insight about who we are. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about me. I don't want to spend a lot of time on us, but I just wanted to give you some context so you could know who we are. So I come from blended cultures. So on my mom's side, I'm Cherokee, and on my father's side, I'm Latina, Mexican. And so I actually come from blended cultures, and growing up, I really didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. Didn't fit in until I was an adult. Now, I grew up in Los Angeles. My parents divorced when I was young, and we started off after my parents' divorce. My mom had to get on welfare. And so she used welfare the way it's supposed to be, in my opinion, because she got on it, and then she went to school, got some skills, and then went to work for the County of Los Angeles, where she worked for 25 years as a liaison to the Native American community in Los Angeles. So I've been around the Native American community in Los Angeles for many, many years, attended a lot of powwows, and very connected to my culture. So I come from very challenging times. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so very meager beginning. And very quickly fast forward, and the reason I share this with you is because I want you to know that anything is possible. Doesn't matter where you start. If you work hard and believe it, you can accomplish anything. Today, I'm actually a 4-time author. I'm a professor. I teach at the graduate level. I teach leadership. I'm a leadership expert. I'm an executive coach. People pay me quite a bit of money per hour at the executive level to teach them how to be better leaders and work with their team. I'm a proud mother. My son is grown. I have one child. Proud of him. Arturo actually is the head fashion stylist at Nickelodeon. And I serve as president of the board for the LA City Pension Fund. I just got reelected this week to serve another year. And the pension fund for the city of LA is multi-billion dollars. Right now we're at about 19 billion. So the fact that I can start off being on welfare and end up being president of the board overseeing, billions of dollars is a true testament that when you turn your life over to the creator, that you can, anything is possible. So I want anybody that's out there listening, to know that there's hope. You can accomplish your dreams. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Abraham, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his journey.
Hello, Cynthia. Um, like Cynthia said, I'm a co-author on Cherokee Wisdom. I was really excited. This was the second edition. Cynthia wrote the first solo. And so I was very excited to be a part of this collaboration. I'm a motivational speaker, a cultural preservation activist, and most recently I held the position of Family Perseverance Manager for Torres Martinez Tribal TANF in Southern California. I recently resigned from that position because in 2 days I'm going to be relocating back to Oklahoma, back to the reservation out there. And so I'm really excited about that. For me, being a motivational speaker, it was challenging at first. I knew that I wanted to share my story because, I would go around a lot of the places I worked. One of the first places I worked when I got sober was a homeless shelter. And so I was sober for about a year when I started working there in the men's program with a lot of the men who had just been released from prison. They didn't have anywhere to go. They were on parole. And so they're having a really hard time. They were new to sobriety, new to the way of life. And so I just started talking to them. And, after a while, I found out that, men would really respond to my story, to what I had to say, because, it's kind of a rough story. I'm very thankful. I'm coming up on my 8th year of sobriety now. But, for, a long while there, things were really dark in my time. I was raised in Cherokee culture. I was raised with all of these beliefs. And, sadly, I went off to school. I traveled the country. And after a while, to me, it seemed like those beliefs were replaced by, other things that, trying to make money or trying to make a name for myself or things like that. And it made me really unhappy. And so, then I started drinking, and when I was growing up, everybody told me, don't do drugs. But nobody ever told me not to drink. And so it just so happens that I'm allergic to it. I am an alcoholic. I am in recovery. And so, that was to pull myself out of that. I feel really lucky because there's a lot of men and women that I've known in my life who didn't make it out, who were actually killed by alcoholism or drug addiction. And so that's why I feel like it's important for me to speak out. For the really good men and women who didn't make it out of that, it's not fair. It's not fair that these things happen to really good people. And it tears their life apart, but it affects their families' lives as well. It affects my children as well. I was drinking whenever they were young. And I'm very lucky now that I'm able to be a father and be sober and be present in their lives. But I was robbed of a lot of years, because of that. So that's why I think it's really important to get my message out, which is at any point, you can stop what you're doing and change your life. And that's what's really great about, the life that the Creator has given us is that, just, from one moment to the next, you can change everything. And so, I have some tools that I implement in my daily life. I strive every day to walk in balance, to be a leader, to be a man of integrity, to be helpful, to be a teacher. And so I'm just really excited, to be here, be a part of this collaboration and, help anybody, hopefully, somebody out there can use some of these cultural teachings and implement them in their lives and their children's lives. So what do?
So Abraham, I just want to say congratulations. I know you're coming up on 8 years of sobriety. And I just want to say, I acknowledge you and, thank you because you're such a positive role model in the community now. And it doesn't matter what your past is today, it matters what you're doing. And you're such a great role model. And what people don't realize with alcoholism, because I see that around me in my family, it's really a lot of it, especially with Native people, it's about the historical trauma that we have gone through. And so we have high rates of alcoholism. We have high rates of domestic violence. And all this is generational stuff because in the United States, Native people went through nothing less than genocide. And that's, in our DNA. So we have to work that much harder, to overcome not only this historical trauma, but the challenges of everyday life. And so, I know that you're out there working with the youth and working with so many people. So, I just want to acknowledge you as a strong uh, Cherokee man with integrity. And I'm just so happy to, be your professional partner.
Guru.
So let's just jump right into our content today. So one of the things about Cherokee wisdom, I want to talk about leadership. Now, why be a leader? Why is leadership important? Well, in Iroquois society, leaders are encouraged to remember 7 generations in the past and 7 generations in the future when we're making decisions. And that's actually a quote from Wilma Mankiller. Wilma Mankiller has been the only female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, and she was chief for 10 years. And actually, Abraham didn't mention this, but Wilma Mankiller is his aunt, or was his aunt because she's passed on. But she really gave us some insight. And when we're looking in 7 generations behind us, that's our ancestors. And we're looking at 7 generations in the future, that's our children, our grandchildren, their children. So leadership is really incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we're taking this holistic view of leadership and realize that we have to invest in the future. So we have a responsibility, and it not just Cherokees, but everybody has the responsibility to both not only their ancestors, if you're not Cherokee, well, you have ancestors, and future generations. So it's incumbent upon all of us to step up and be good leaders. Now, what is leadership? Well, leadership is the ability to influence others. Let me say that again. Leadership is the ability to influence others. So when you really think about that, we're all leaders. If you're a parent, you're a leader because you're influencing your children. If you're an older sibling, if you have younger siblings, you're influencing them. If you're you have a fancy title or you don't, if you're involved in community organizations, we all have the ability to influence others. So we're all leaders. You're a leader. You're a leader. Everybody out there, you guys are leaders. It's not just about a title. Now, with leadership and influencing others can be positive or negative, because the fact of the matter is the next generation's watching what we're doing. So if we're doing negative things like not acting with integrity, lying, cheating, stealing, all that kind of stuff, then they're thinking it's okay because that's what your behavior is. So we're all leaders, and make sure that we have that responsibility to be a good leader in our community, because it really affects everybody. So Abraham, how do you define leadership?
The same way. One thing I would add, for me, leadership is just being yourself, but having the courage to voice, your opinion, your what you have to say. What I really see a lot of times, the most thoughtful people, they're kind of quiet. They don't really get what they have to say out there a lot. And, that's what I think the world needs more of today. The thoughtful people to, I don't know. Well, from all I can speak for is myself. For me, I didn't feel like, I was thoughtful. I had really good ideas, but I didn't feel maybe that I was as smart as the people I was in the room with, or I didn't have the title, that they had. But one thing I found, once I did work up the courage to, lend my ideas, lend my support, one of the things I found is that it was well received, and I felt a lot better about myself because I didn't have that bottled up. You know, for me, leadership, I think, you know, can best be summed up, you know, just acting with integrity. And I know that's another point that you're going to talk about. And so, you know, I really feel, you know, those two things for me really resonate when you speak about leadership.
Thank you for that. So in the book, Cherokee Wisdom, 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader, we have 12 lessons. Tonight, we're going to share a few of them with you. We're not going to go through all 12, but we're going to cover some of the key areas. Now, with the lessons, again, this comes from Cherokee Nation. We do have permission to use this content. I made sure I got that when I released the first edition of the book. And how do we know it comes from the ancestors? Because all of these concepts are actually in Cherokee. And we Cherokees, we have our own language, and these come from our language. So we know that these concepts have been around a long time. So I'm going to jump right in the first lesson, Cherokee Wisdom lesson number 1. It pertains to being a leader. It says, you know, the way they define leader is leaders lead by example, show the way by acting the way we want to treat others to treat us. So when you're being a leader and leading by example, you're showing the way, you know, show that you're treating others with respect, you know, show others that you're being honest, you know, and we'll talk about more in integrity in a minute. But when you lead by example, that's how people are going to learn. That's how the young people are going to learn. It's not like you sit, you know, a elementary school child down and say, okay, this is how you be a leader. No, what they do is they watch you. They watch what you do and they copy. So you want to lead by example, and the way that you want to be treated is how you're going to treat others. So the leadership lesson here is actually leadership principles are simple when you remember to treat others how you want to be treated. Lead by example and use your core values as your guidepost. You know, a few years ago, one of the jobs that I had, I was president of public works for the city of Los Angeles, which means I oversaw 5,000 people, just under a $1 billion a year budget, and I had a lot of responsibility. And I was in a situation where I had to make decisions every day, and I knew I couldn't make everybody happy. So what I did is I tapped into my core values. And as long as I was making those difficult decisions based on my core values, then I could sleep at night. Didn't mean everybody agreed with my decisions, but I always said, what's the decision that's going to benefit the greater good? So that's how I really led from my core values, and that's so important. So Abraham, what's your take on Cherokee Wisdom lesson number 1, being a leader?
Being a leader, you know, just to expand, you know, a little bit on what you were saying, you know, leading by example, you know, that's during when things are easy, but also when they're tough. You know, and leaders have to have legitimacy. If people don't see you acting in accordance with what's coming out of your mouth, if they're not adding up, then they're not going to, you know, really follow you. And, you know, I once had somebody tell me not to drink while they were holding a can of beer. And I was little at the time. And I remember looking up at them and, you know, it didn't add up. You know, you can't tell me not to drink while you're drinking. So, you know, you have to really remember that people aren't going to always do what you say. They're going to do what you do, you know, and I think, you know, a lot more than any words I will ever say, you know, I can see it in my son. You know, my son acts the way I do, you know, certain times. And it's funny, you know, to see how he acts like me. And I don't think those are things that I've told him. I think he's just saw the way I act over time and he fixed it up, you know, from being around me for all those years. And he'll act like me, you know, and he's picked up some good things and he's picked up some bad things, you know, some things he still needs to work on, you know, for me, you know, just make sure whenever I was younger, I wouldn't, I didn't remain teachable. But there for a couple years, I thought I had it all together, and I can see that in my son too. I'll try and show him how to do something, and he's grown now. It's time for him to live his own life, but he's really quick to say, "Oh, I got it, I got it," And so it's just really funny, to see how the good things in yourself, and some of the things you need to work on, they can be passed down, to those who are following you. And so, you definitely, every day I try to live my values. And then also, let's say you have a lapse in judgment, or you're having a bad day, and maybe you respond out of anger or frustration to somebody, that's okay. It happens. It's called being human. And one of the things I think we really need to remember is we're all going to make mistakes. And when we do make those mistakes, it is important to own up to them. I see a lot nowadays, it's become more and more frequent to where people say leaders aren't supposed to apologize. And I really disagree with that. I think that if you do make a mistake, you should own up to it quick. Own up to it quick. I think people will respect you more by owning up to your mistake, keeping a clear line of communication, and let people know what you're doing to correct that mistake. Because you just look ridiculous for these people. Some of these leaders who they'll make a mistake. Everybody saw them make the mistake, but then they won't own up to it. They'll double down and they'll just keep going, and you just end up looking ridiculous. And so, a lot of us, we don't have the fortune of having a big title behind us and, political weight or these things. We're leaders in our households. We're leaders in our communities. We're leaders on our job sites. And so, we're not afforded, second chances, 100 chances, all these things. So, it's really important for us, to get it right. And so that's the biggest thing that, I would like to pass along, is just that, being a leader every day, means owning up to your mistakes also.
I think that's an excellent point, because a lot of leaders think that if they own their mistakes, it makes them weak. I think the opposite. I respect a person more if they can say, you know what, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and show that they've learned from it or what the mistake was. When we're talking about leading by example, I actually share an example in the book. And it was an example that really had a profound impact on me. I was actually it was after work one day, and I was buying my dinner and wasn't really paying attention. I was kind of decompressing from the day, thinking about everything I still had to do. And so I was at a fast food restaurant, or not that fast food, Pollo Loco, for those of you who have Pollo Loco around you. And I was, paying. The guy in front of me, he was paying with change. He was counting his pennies. He looked a little bit disheveled. He may or may not have been homeless, but he had a little bit of unkempt look. So he came up short. He didn't have enough money to pay for his meal. So I didn't even think about it. I just reached in my purse, got a couple dollars and gave it to him so he could pay for his meal. So what I had not realized is in line behind me was a woman who had her daughter with her. Her daughter was maybe, 9, 10 years old. She saw what I did. And of course, we had not even spoken, and I didn't even realize they were there. And what she did is she asked her mother, after she saw what I did, for $1. And then she went and she gave it to the man and said, "Here, I hope this helps you. I hope you can eat dinner tonight." And then at that point, I realized what had happened, that she just watched me. So I was leading by example, not even realizing it. And then I looked at the mom, I looked at the daughter and the man, and we all kind of had a moment, because right then I realized, wow, kids watch what you do. And I wasn't doing that to influence her, because I didn't even know she was there. But we have to always be aware that others around us do watch what we do. So leading by example, and when you're in a situation and there's a benefit of the doubt, make sure that, ask yourself the question, is this, I'm treating this person this way, is this how I want to be treated? That's kind of your litmus test. Is this how I want to be treated? And if it is, then, treat that person that way. So leading by example is so important, and that's the first lesson that we wanted to share with you. So we're going to move on, and the next lesson that's in the book, Cherokee Wisdom Lesson number 2, is about integrity. Now, how do Cherokees define integrity? Well, we define integrity as doing the right thing even when no one else is around. Because sometimes people will do the right thing under peer pressure. Others are watching, so they're going to do the right thing. Well, what about those situations where nobody else is around and it's only you? Still do the right thing. Do the right thing, because if you don't, that's going to impact yourself. You may do something that's illegal or criminal, but guess what? And some people say, oh, it doesn't matter because I didn't get caught. But you know what? If you do something that's not right, it stays in with you and can have an impact on you if you realize it or not. So leadership lesson number 2, as a leader, strive to keep your integrity and do the right thing in all situations. Now, Abraham, have you ever had a situation where you had the, like we see on TV, the little devil and the little angel, do it, don't do it, and you did something that you regretted?
I definitely come across those situations. And for me, it's actually has always been easier to do the right thing when I'm alone. When I was peer pressure to do the wrong thing, that's when it was the most challenging for me. Because when I'm by myself, yeah, I do the right thing. It's no problem. But when, I'm peer pressured, everybody else is doing it this way. Oh, we can cut this corner. Why are you being a stickler about this? That's when I think it really becomes challenging to make sure you hold to your values. Whenever people are pressuring you, to do something that you should be doing. And one of the things, I'll talk about integrity is we have to remember, once you make that one little thing okay, whatever it is, maybe you take $1 that didn't belong to you, or it may be something small, but once you do that one little thing and make it okay, it's going to be easier to make other bigger things okay. And so we really have to watch, for myself, this is a principle, of course, or maybe you don't know, but this is a principle in Alcoholics Anonymous. For me, I don't have the luxury of, cutting corners or doing anything like that, because for myself, it's deathly serious. For me, making bad decisions, it could end up with going back to drinking. And so, one of the ways that I'm able to stay on a good path is I have to, in all situations, do the right thing. Even if it's a big thing or a little thing, I have to make sure I act with integrity, because once you do one thing out of character, even if it's little, it's okay later. You make it okay later to do something that's bigger and bigger and bigger, and then, pretty much, we see a lot of good people who have been in and out of jail, in and out of trouble, and they always say, I didn't mean to, things like that. And so, we have to, definitely police ourselves. And, hopefully you have good friends who help you, police each other. I think that's you can tell if you have a really good support system, if people will call you out, not in a hurtful way, but call you out and say, hey, are you okay, Abraham? I see you, acting out of sorts, or not acting in line with your values. And, for me, that's, whenever I was younger, before I really understood friendship, and what a good relationship was, those kind of things would make me mad. But looking back now, it's the people who have called me out, in times, because maybe I was having a bad day, and everybody has bad days. I was having a bad day, or whatever it was, a real friend will pull you aside and help you, help you pull yourself back into line. And, let's make sure we're doing that for each other also. If your friends are, maybe not acting in accordance with their values, we can do it in a good way, that helps them and helps ourselves. So for me, those are the biggest things when I think about integrity.
I think the biggest thing that's helped me with integrity, and I think you could probably relate to this, Abraham, is surrender. Surrender and spirituality. Once I surrendered to the Creator, realizing and connecting to the fact that there's a force bigger than myself, and it helps me stay accountable. And I know that Abraham, you might want to share a little bit about your experience with surrender.
For me, surrender was, my most recent surrender was whenever I got sober, and it was really challenging because I had not been acting with integrity in my life for so long that I really, I didn't even know who I was anymore. And so one of the things that helped me surrender was my Cherokee culture. Drawing back on the things that I was taught when I was younger, through the stomp ground, that really helped me find, and help and really rebuild my relationship with the Creator. And having those songs always in my heart, even when, I was drinking and everything, they were always there, and I was just really grateful to be able to call on all those teachings, when it was time for me to surrender, to the Creator and say, you know what, I want to put this in the Creator's hands. And, one of the biggest challenges, I think, to that was fear. Fear has, was one of the reasons I started drinking. And so, that's one of the biggest things we have to watch in our lives, is to make sure we're not giving into our fear and letting our fear run us.
Now, Abraham, you mentioned stomp grounds. For you and I know what that means. For the people that are not familiar with stomp grounds, talk a little bit about what that is.
For Cherokee people, for me growing up, my family, it's ceremonial. It's a ceremony, and the best way I can describe it is, a lot of people go to church. We go to the stomp ground. It's where we go to talk to the Creator, worship the Creator, fellowship with each other. One of the quotes I like. There's this one guy. He says, we don't believe in magic. We believe in the trees, the birds, the animals. These things, they're able to tell us how healthy the earth is doing, how healthy we are. And so, I butchered that quote. Sorry about that. But anyway, that's what going to the stomp ground is all about. It's just fellowshipping with each other and being grateful for everything that we have in life. One of the first things I was taught when I went to the stomp ground is we passed two posts when you go into the driveway. And my uncle, he pointed at those posts. And I still remember it clear as day. And he pointed at the post and he told me, once you pass those posts, you no longer have enemies. You no longer have, anybody that you fight with. When you pass those posts, you have to let all of the anger, jealousy, negativity, all that has to be free from your heart. Because when you're here, you have to love one another. And, that really helped me whenever I was young. Because, growing up, I was having a hard time, fitting in and all these other things. And I just remember being at the stomp ground and just being able to have my heart just filled with love, because I didn't have that anger in there. I didn't have that jealousy in there. I didn't have any of those things in there. I was just able to be free and be who the Creator meant me to be. And that's a helpful person, who is loving and helpful to everybody. That's my essence. That's who I am. When I'm acting in accordance with my values, when I'm firing on all cylinders, I'm walking in balance, that's really who I am. I'm here to help. I want to help. And, so that's really what the stomp ground's about. We have our songs, and we dance, we play ball there, we eat together. And so, it's just, it's really awesome to have, you know, our ancestors who made such great sacrifices, that we still have those songs. Because as you know, Cynthia, I mean, you know, our songs were outlawed for a lot of years, and you know, they say that's why we dance at night. We didn't used to dance at night; we would dance during the day, but it's because it was outlawed, and people would be jailed and be killed for singing these songs when they weren't dangerous. All they helped us to do was laugh with one another, you know, and worship the Creator together, and you know, just be happy for everything that we have. So.
And thank you for bringing up that point. So basically, the stomp grounds are the ceremonial grounds. One of my favorite parts of it is the dance. And so when you dance, going back to the concept of harmony and balance, we dance in a line, and it's male, female, that has to be balanced. So, you know, it's a lot of fun. But like Abraham pointed out, from the early 1900s until I think in the early 1970s, so 70 years in particular in Oklahoma, all native ceremonies were outlawed. So people went to jail because they were celebrating their culture or our culture. And so it's so sad. So thank you for talking about the stomp grounds. So let's continue on. And the next lesson that we want to talk about is lesson number 3 from Cherokee Wisdom, and it's strong. Be strong. Now, be strong in whatever you do. Take comfort in the strength of the Creator and your ancestors. So the leadership lesson here is the best leaders are the ones that develop a combination of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual strength. I think a lot of times when people think of strong, they think of, you know, somebody that's physically fit and has muscles. I mean, and that's one form of strength. But really looking at it holistically, there's so many other forms of strength that we need. Right now, during this challenging time, we need mental strength and emotional strength to get ourselves and our families through this time. So being strong is a combination of things. It's not just one thing. Abraham, what does being strong mean to you?
For me, being strong is the sum of my wellness. You know, like you talked about, mental wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness. For me, I'm strong when I'm in balance, and all of those things are working together. You know, so let's say I'm not, you know, I haven't been practicing my physical wellness. I haven't been walking. I haven't been running. I haven't been playing ball. And then my stress is going to start building up. You know, or I'm not getting enough sleep. And these things tend to spill over into other areas. And I get grouchy. And then maybe I have an argument with somebody. And then I'm carrying around that negativity. And so they kind of can start to snowball after a while. And so I have to make sure every day I'm resetting. I am, you know, looking at areas where I need to improve my wellness program. And, you know, I'm making sure that I'm being in balance. You know, for me, I always prided myself when I was younger on being a workaholic. I thought that was the thing to be. I was being a good person. I was being a good father. You know, I was being a strong man. And all I was doing was running myself into the ground. You know, a lot of the older people that I would work with would say, oh, your back's going to pay for that whenever you're older. And, you know, when you're young, you think, you know, your body's just going to hold out forever. Well, now I can feel it in my back. Exactly what they were talking about. And so, you know, for me, you know, definitely being strong is not, you know, necessarily being, you know, boastful or even, you know, the most physically strong. For me, whenever I am strong, I'm loving. That's when I know I'm at my strongest, is when I love everyone. I want to support everyone. I'm really, you know, I have really good ideas, thoughtful ideas to help people. I have a lot of energy. I have good thoughts. That's when I know my wellness plan is working and I'm walking in balance when all of those things are happening. Whenever I find myself wanting to argue with people on Facebook, or being grouchy about something that's small, or maybe I'm not really hungry, or I'm not sleeping well, that's when I know I'm not strong, and my wellness program is out of whack a little bit. So and that's okay. It happens a lot, and so it's really okay. Just at night or in the morning. And actually I do it both times. I'll just take a minute, and meditate a little bit. Get myself realigned, remember what's important, because the world today, it moves so fast that it's really easy to get out of whack. Mom's, she's working all day. She, might not have a sitter right now. The kids are home because of the pandemic. Maybe you're laid off. You're not getting enough hours. You got to find, food to cook. The kids can't be out doing what they're supposed to because we have to stay away from each other. It's really easy to be overwhelmed by all of these stressful things, and it's really understandable. And so I want people to realize that it's way okay. It's okay to have anxiety from time to time. It's okay to cry from time to time. It's okay to not feel your strongest in these very turbulent times. But one of the things we can do about that is to make sure, we realign our focus all the time. Definitely a couple days in the morning or at night, just take that time to really meditate on what's important, be grateful for what we have, and, just take stock. That way we're able to maintain our strength.
So what I want to do is really, because we're looking at being strong or strength holistically, so I want to break it down into each category. Let's talk about mental strength, because mental strength is something a lot of people don't understand. And I've had to tap into my mental strength. As I indicated, I was the first person in my family to go to college. So I didn't have anybody to guide me. My parents didn't have any money to give me. So I just had to really say, okay, I need to be strong mentally, not only to pass the classes, to go to an environment which was unfamiliar to me with really no friends. So it's like I had to find the mental strength. And for me, the mental strength came from within. I say, okay, I got to do this. I'm going to do this. So I get my mental strength by obviously tapping into the energy of the Creator and praying and meditating, but also surrounding myself with positive people, because we are all energy and our energy feeds off of each other. So if you're hanging around with a bunch of negative people that are haters, that's going to bring you down. So I get my mental strength from the amazing support network that I have, but also watching positive content. I do watch a lot of TED Talks. I do watch the Discovery Channel, different documentaries, different things that I feel are going to enhance my life. That gives me mental strength. Because when you really think about worry and anxiety, you realize that a lot of that's just in your head. A lot of the things that you worry about don't exist outside your head. And so it's really taking control of your mind and your brain and really getting that mental strength. Abraham, how do you get your mental strength?
For me, it's definitely through prayer. Well, also meditating. I've really started to work on manifesting. Thinking. Instead of because I've always been a worrier. My whole life, and they say people who have gone through trauma, that's one of the symptoms. Excessive worrying. And so I never knew that I was, that it was out of the norm because that's the way I'd always been. And, I just thought, I just thought of it as not getting my hopes up, so I would think about, okay, well, we're going to take a trip, well, I need to plan, for, oh, the car's probably going to break down, or this is probably going to happen. And it's never a good thing whenever I'm, looking to the future and I'm forecasting these things. I'm always looking at what's the worst that could happen. So, really now in my later years, and I've actually, been taught this, is, to instead think about what's the best that could happen. And so it's really changed my life. And so, just thinking about that is really helped me to take my focus from the negative to the positive. And so, but I have to, that has to be refreshed. I have to refocus a lot because it is my default setting to be negative. To right off the bat, think that I'm undeserving, I'm not worthy of this, or, whatever it is. Unfortunately, growing up, because I am such a warrior, that's what I go to right off the bat. So every day, actually, I do it probably 4 times a day. I just take a little time to, refocus, make sure I am focusing on positive content, and like you pointed out, one of the things I have to do is really limit how much time I'm on social media, because I see, just negative thing after negative thing after negative thing. And that can really affect you mentally. And so, before I thought it was a weakness, but it's not. It's just taking care of myself. And that's okay. You learn as you go. And so, I have to make sure if I don't want to be anxious, if I want to be strong, if I want to, continue to walk in balance, that's one of the things I have to do is continue to refocus and, make sure that I'm being positive.
You touched a little bit upon the physical health, but to me, when we're talking about physical strength, it really is threefold. You mentioned sleep. Sleep is so important. Make sure that your body's getting rest. Exercise, whatever exercise looks like to you. It could be walking. I personally love hiking. Whatever it takes, get your body moving. And then the third piece of physical strength to me is what you eat. Because in so many communities of color, because of our diet, we struggle with diabetes, high blood pressure, all these ailments because of our traditional diets. So to me, that what eating healthy is so important, and really having all of those three, the physical, the sleep, and the eating properly is what helps me with the physical strength. What about you, Abraham?
Definitely. And, for me, just to touch on a little bit what you were talking about with food, I think that's one of the things that, as we move forward, to make sure that we are keeping a closer eye on. Because I always, just really trusted these companies. I trusted the government to make sure that they were putting the best ingredients into all of this food, that we consume. And that's just not the case. We live in a capitalist society. People are going to get away with what they can get away with. And so they don't always put the good ingredients in these things. And so, for myself, I just really had to take ownership of what I was eating instead of, putting it on other people. And now, it's definitely, I see it as an investment. Before, I would spend more money on maybe a car or rent or these other things and less money on the food I was eating. I would eat cheap. I would eat off the dollar menu, things like that. And sometimes also because of my budget, because I just didn't have a lot of money. But now food is the thing I spend money on the most. If it's, an expensive, whatever, meat or, fruit or these things, I make sure to spend the money because, it's better food. My brother, he's preached this for a long time. We have to make sure we watch what we're putting into our bodies, and we can't always trust, that these companies are going to do it for us. So.
Well, I have to admit, I haven't always ate healthy. My weakness is sugar, And let me
Yeah.
tell you, processed sugar is so bad for you. And when you really start looking at the labels like you recommended, sugar's in everything. Sugar
Yeah.
is ketchup. Sugar is in everything. So I had to really be conscious of that because diabetes runs in my family. So now I'm at the point where I've tried to eliminate as much sugar as I can because I love ice cream and candy and cookies. And I had to say, wait a minute, that's not a healthy investment in myself. I don't want to go down the path of getting diabetes like, so many people, Native people and Latina people. So I'm just like, okay, I have control over what I put in my body. So it's time for me to take control. So, eating healthy is so important. Now, emotional strength. I really love the fact that as a man, you talked about crying because I think in society, men are taught that, boys don't cry, men don't cry. But I feel like it's such an important emotion because to me, what crying represents, because there's sad crying, there's happy crying, there's different kinds of crying, it's that release. You need to release some of these emotions from your body. So thank you, Abraham, for talking about, how men sometimes you need to cry.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, growing up, for men, it's more acceptable for you to punch a hole in the wall or to, be loud or be grouchy or these kind of things. And, I just want to make it to be more acceptable to call a friend, talk about your feelings, meditate, go for a walk. These other things are actually a lot more positive, and are going to get you farther, than giving in to your anger.
Well, I do have a brother, like I said, that's in a 12-step program. And what I love for him as a man is that he has the fellowship. He has people around him that he can call and talk to because not all guys have that. Women, we tend to have our support network, but guys, not so much. So, I'm glad that you're participating in that. So, okay, let's go on to uh, Cherokee Wisdom lesson number 4. Humble. Be humble. Never boast. Never think that you are better than anyone else. And this is one of the core beliefs of the Cherokees because what we believe is that we are connected to everything in this world. We're connected to everything in this world, everything that ever has been, and everything that ever will be. So when you realize you're connected, that gives you a sense of being equal and not better than. And so some people don't get the fact that you can be humble and confident. They think that you have to be one or the other. But I try to be confident in everything that I do, but I also try to approach things with humility. I in my past have had fancy job titles or different things in front of my name, but that doesn't make me a better person. All that does mean to me is that it's more responsibility. It gives me more responsibility. I remember I was speaking to a group of young people, college age students at Cal State LA. At the time I was president of public works, and this young gentleman raises up his hand. He goes, how does it feel to have so much power? And I was a little surprised by the question. And I said, it feels like a lot of responsibility because I wasn't looking at like, oh yeah, I have this title, I have the power. I was looking at it's a lot of work. So it's really about perspective. So leadership lesson number 4, a leader can be humble and confident at the same time. Abraham, what do you think about that?
Yeah, for me, being humble, um, I became more humble actually when I became more confident in myself. And so, for me, humility, one of the, like you said, you touched on it, it makes me feel more connected to everyone around me. And that makes me stronger. And so, that's the biggest thing that, humility, and it's definitely, a part of Cherokee culture, for us to be humble and to know that we are a part of something. We are not the center of the universe. We are only a part of it. And, we're here to play our part and to be helpful and to put ourselves, neither above or below, anybody else. So for me, whenever we talk about being humble, the biggest thing that, I get from it is just that feeling of being connected to everyone.
Well, and I think a prime example in Cherokee culture are elders. We have a lot of respect for our elders because they've had life experiences, where they've accumulated wisdom. Well, the elders are some of the most humble people in our community. They don't go around saying, well, I've lived so many years and I know everything and I'm better than you. They really, most of the elders are very wise, but they're compassionate and they're willing to share that information, but they come from a place of humility, not arrogance. How do you feel about the elders in our culture?
Definitely, you hit it right on the head. And that's what's really awesome is they do have all of this knowledge, but they don't put themselves above you. And whenever elders always speaking to me, I really feel connected to them. And so that's one of the things we have to make sure we learn from, and we pass along. That I have to make sure whenever I'm speaking to younger people, or speaking in general, I always try to let people know, that we're the same. And so, I'm not speaking at you, I want to speak with you. And, I want it to be a conversation. So it definitely helps us, to stay connected.
So we are halfway through our session tonight. So we're going to move into the conversation of walking in balance. And I'm going to turn it over to Abraham to lead the discussion. Just let me know when you need the slide changed. So Abraham, take it away.
Okay. Walking in balance is a curriculum that I'm working on, but this is not new knowledge. This is all of these things, have been passed down to us from our ancestors. And what they really are is a roadmap to living well and living a good life. So walking in balance means that we find a harmony between our mind, body, and spirit so that we can live well. And so, we touched on this before, just making sure that our physical health, mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, all of these things, that we're staying in balance. We are not working too much. We're not working out too much. We make sure we're getting enough sleep. We make sure we have positive content in our life, positive relationships. Make sure we're acting with integrity. All of these things are able to help us walk in balance. And that way we are able to be in a position to fulfill, what the Creator has planned for us. So you can go to the next slide.
So, well, actually, let me just stop there
Okay.
for a minute, because when we are talking about walking in balance, what that reminds me of how important it is to be in balance, not only with ourselves, but Mother Nature. And if you really look at Mother Nature, everything runs in cycles, right? So the seasons are in cycles. The moon is in cycle. Everything, it flows. The animals, the plants, everything has cycles. And so to me, not only is it walking in balance, like I said, being in balance with our own life and our own selves, but to me, being in balance with the world around us and being in harmony with those different seasons that come and go. So what's your take on that?
Definitely, that's definitely needs to be included in this. For thousands and thousands of years, Cherokee people, Native people, we've lived in balance with our environment. We always only took what we needed. We never took more than that. And so, one of the things we saw when we got this time out during the pandemic and everyone started staying home more, you saw these news reports about different parts of the world being healed a little bit. The air is a little clearer, because there's less pollution, some of these things. So, that's one of the things we need to look towards in the future, is to make sure that we're recycling, we are investing in protecting the environment, protecting our water, these things, because they are also what keep us healthy. We keep each other healthy. We have to maintain that balance. We have to definitely keep an eye on capitalism, because, I think if it's unchecked, then we have to sacrifice things like our water, and things like that. So we have to, make sure we are supporting the guardians, the people who are out there, on the front lines, fighting for clean air, fighting for, making recycling programs and these things. So I definitely agree with you on that.
And using renewable energy. I mean, when you really think about renewable energy, those are gifts from Mother Earth, whether it be solar, which is sun, hydro, which is water, wind. So using the natural resources of Mother Nature and using renewable energy that does not have a negative impact on the earth is so important. But you were talking about during this pandemic, so I do go hiking regularly, and I hike in an urban park, even though it's really outdoors and very nice. But it's been interesting, and I socially distance and I do wear a mask, but it's been interesting during these last 3 months, because hiking on the same trails I always hike, the other day I saw a deer. I've never seen a deer at this park. We see lots of rabbits. We see lots of birds. So it's actually very nice to see that now that people are standing still for a minute, that Mother Earth and nature is really thriving. So I think a lot of people, the naysayers that say, no, we can't do anything to help the environment, my argument is, yes, we can. And I think that it's our duty to make sure, going back to the future generations, that we, each and every one of us, can play our part, big or small, to help the environment. So this earth, we only have one earth, that it's here for future generations. And with that, I'll turn it back to Abraham.
So walking in balance, we talked a lot about this already, but gratitude, our wellness, respect for self, others, and environment, integrity, and then one of the things here that we haven't touched on yet, service to others. So when we have all of these things working in balance, creating a harmony in our life, one of the ways that we can express that gratitude is by helping our fellow man, our fellow woman. So, service to others, I think, is very important. So it's not only a responsibility, but it makes you feel really good about yourself. One of the tools that I've heard mentioned, when people, are suffering from a lack of self-esteem, or maybe they're depressed, is to keep a journal. Keep a journal of how they've helped people, the good things that they've done, because you can look back on that and it makes you feel really good. And so service to others, it not only helps others, but it helps yourself as well.
And so one of the things about being of service, I think that it's part of the Cherokee way. And the reason being is because before the Europeans came, with the Cherokees, it was a sense of community. And I give you an example. With a sense of community, even though we had a lot of land at that time, we didn't believe in individual land ownership. What it was is that the tribe had all this land, and if you decided that you wanted to build a house and work the land in your area, you were granted that, but there was no sense of me. It was a sense of us and we. So you were always of service because you were serving the community. It was always the greater good of the community. It wasn't until the early 1900s that the United States came in and said, okay, what we're going to do is they took an inventory of the Native Americans at that time. And it was actually for us, it's called the Dawes Rolls, and Dawes was a Congress member. So they took an inventory of all the Native Americans. Then they said, okay, you each get a parcel of land. And so they divided up, and then anything that wasn't given back to the Native Americans, which was our land anyway, they did all these, they just let everybody go and non-natives be on the land. So, but it was a struggle for us because we didn't have that concept of individual land ownership. And I can't remember the statistic, but the actual statistics of the land allotments that were provided to the Native Americans, it's very small percentage stayed in with the Native Americans because people came and swindled them out of the land. But it goes back to the whole point is it's sense of community and serving community. So that's where that sense of being of service. And I want to spend a little minute on respect for self and others. Abraham, talk to me about respect.
Respect, I think respect for self is vitally important. You can treat others well all day long, but, you're not going to really get the results that you want in your life if you don't respect yourself as well. And so I think the bedrock of respect for self is acting with integrity. When you're acting with integrity, you are able to sleep well at night knowing that you did the best you could. Knowing that, you didn't hurt anybody. And so I'm just, that's one of the things that I work on the most is to make sure that I am acting in a way so that I do respect myself when I look in the mirror.
And I think that's something that's very important for the young people, because what they need to realize is that actions have consequences. And what I'm talking about is the way that many people use social media. So social media, to me, you want to make sure that the content you're putting out there is respectful to yourself. Because I've seen people putting their pictures out there and they're partying like a rock star. And I'm not judging anybody, but I always ask the young people, is that really the image that you want to portray? Because that image that you create is never going to go away. And a quick example, I had this one young guy who was in his 20s, and he decided he was going to run to be a congressperson in my area where I live. And so a lot of the more seasoned elected officials were not happy about this young guy running for Congress. So what did they do? They went and looked at his Facebook at the time and pulled up all these pictures of him partying and drunk with his friends. And they made a flyer and passed it out to everybody. And they said, is this the person that you want representing you in Congress? Needless to say, he didn't win. But I think I hope that, as we move forward, that the young people realize the importance of social media and making sure that you're being respectful to yourself and others. I know, Abraham, you were mentioning about arguing with people on social media. I'm at the point where I don't even argue because sometimes people, they just want to be right. So at this point in my life, I just ignore them.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, let's move on. Take it away.
So, walking in balance, all of the principles are drawn from Native culture. Some of the things we've talked about, stomp dance, gathering and making medicine, our games, our art, storytelling, hunting, our relationships, all of these aspects of Cherokee life provide a program for wellness. So if our cultural teachings are followed, Cherokees will live a fulfilled life of wellness and be able to walk in balance. By walking in balance, servant leaders will have legitimacy and will be trusted in their stewardship. So, this is not just exclusive to Cherokee people or Native people. If you follow this program and walk in balance, This is for anybody. And so, I'm just really thankful that we still have all of our cultural teachings. A lot of people had to sacrifice to make sure that we have them. And so it's just making a daily choice to draw on these teachings, to make sure that we are, living with integrity, treating ourselves well, and living. It'll help us live a fulfilled life of wellness.
Now, one of the things you talked about is gathering and making medicine. What is your knowledge about that?
Well, it could look like different things, whether you're having a ceremony for somebody, and each tribe, has their own ways that they gather and make medicine. Out here in California, I know they use sage a lot. In Oklahoma, Cherokees use cedar a lot. So my mother would burn cedar and would pray. And, I think that's one of the things people don't really realize, that whenever they just do something simple as pray for somebody, you're actually making medicine. You're making good medicine, for that person, trying to heal them. So, our words, and our intentions have power.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I think right now, there's a lot of misunderstanding about Native medicine. A lot of people are getting into ayahuasca, and that's not Cherokee at all. That's mostly from Peru, and different like mind-altering drugs, and they think that that's their medicine. But it's interesting because actually in Oklahoma, they have a seed bank where they provide all these seeds from a lot of the native plants. And so I love the fact that you talked about how prayer is medicine, because I believe that as well. And of course, you talked about here in this region, they use sage to clear the space and clear energy. You talked about cedar. Also, Cherokees, we use sweetgrass. And down in Peru, they use Palo Santo. So there's different things, but it's all about using it for the same intent, to clear the energy and to send prayers and to send medicine to people that are struggling for whatever reason, whether it be health or emotional or whatever. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that you didn't talk about in your list was storytelling. Tell me about storytelling.
For me, that's how I learned, most of the values that I have, was actually, if I would ask, my uncles or maybe one of my aunts about something, more often than not, they would tell me a story. And, in that story, it would make me think critically, think about that value, think about how it's applied. And so it was just really awesome because it helped me to remember it more than if somebody gave me a lecture, gave me a lecture on responsibility. Instead they would tell me a story, and they have stuck with me, throughout the years. And, they definitely help whenever you're trying to pass something along, to children. They have a very short attention span, and they're only going to absorb so much of what you are trying to pass on to them. So if you are able to, put that value or what you're trying to teach them into a story, it's definitely going to resonate with them a lot more.
So you have any stories you want to share?
Oh, a ton, but
just one.
Well, for me, Selu, I think, my mom would tell me about Selu, which is corn. Whenever it would thunder and lightning, the electricity would go out. My mom would get all of us into her bed because we would be scared and wouldn't have any light. And my mom would tell us the story of Selu and how the thunder and lightning were fighting over her because they loved her. And, one of the stories they talk about Selu, or the corn husk doll, is that why it doesn't have a face, and it's just trying to relate about how you're not supposed to be vain. You know, you don't be so concerned with what you look like, but instead be more concerned with how you act on your values. So, yeah, that's one of the stories I remember from when I was young.
Now, in this slide, thank you for sharing that. In this slide, we also have a picture of some stickball sticks. Tell us about stickball, because I know we've played stickball before.
Hmm Stickball, you know, it's played a couple different ways. They call it the little brother of war. Uh, you know, and we play at the stomp ground. We play socially. It's actually a part of our ceremonies. So stickball, whenever you play socially, you play men versus women, and you have a pole. You know, it's about probably 40 feet tall, and the men play with sticks. They have the two sticks there, and they'll use the two sticks to throw the ball and hit. Maybe a fish is up on top of the pole, or something else will be up there. And the women will use their hands, and so that's how you score points, is by throwing the ball up there. It's a very physical game. The women will throw you around, knock the men around, and so it's just really fun. Everyone has a really good time. Yeah, but that's you know, part of it when we go to stomp ground is you know, playing stickball. Very fun.
Well, what I liked best about stickball, because I have played, is that for the women, there are no rules. I mean,
Yeah.
we can, not that I did this, but you can bite the person, you can scratch a person, you can do whatever it takes to make sure you get the ball up there, where the guys had rules. I mean, they had to use the sticks, they had to make sure the ball was in the stick, but we just got to pick it up with our hands and throw it. So, but you know, as you mentioned, initially way back in the day, it was a pre-war game. Now, obviously, it's more of a social game, but it is, you know, something that's carried over in our tradition. So thank you for sharing about that. Okay, let's see what else you got. My favorite topic, gratitude.
Gratitude for me, the whole walking and balance program curriculum, it starts with gratitude. You know, for me, when I wake up, the very first thing I do is make sure I thank the Creator for another day on this earth. You know, when people are grateful, when I'm grateful for the things that I have in my life, I'm a lot happier. My relationships are better. I feel better. I feel more alive. I sleep better. And so, how do we practice gratitude? So, one of the ways, you know, to practice gratitude, not be picky, make sure we appreciate everything, find gratitude even in our challenges, because it's easy to be grateful when everything is going our way. But, you know, when things, you know, you have a flat tire or whatever it is, you know, just make sure we remain grateful. You know, volunteer, express yourself. All of these things, you know, help us to be more grateful in our life. So it's definitely the bedrock of, I think, you know, our happiness in life.
Well, for me, it's very similar to you, gratitude. Well, gratitude is part of my spiritual practice. And my spiritual practice comprises of three things: gratitude, prayer, and meditation. So gratitude is the first thing I do every morning. And so I do my gratitude list as soon as I open my eyes. I mean, first and foremost, I thank the Creator for another day. I thank the Creator for having a bed to sleep in, because there's so many homeless in Los Angeles. You know, I thank the Creator for having a house, a lot of being surrounded by so many loved ones and being supported. I thank the Creator for my little doggy that's my companion during this pandemic. I mean, there's just so much to be grateful for. But just like you, Abraham, I'm even grateful for the challenges, because every challenge that's placed in my life, my perception is there's a lesson there. So I look at it and say, okay, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn? And then I'm grateful for that experience because I learned that particular lesson. So for the people that know me, know that gratitude is so much a part of my life. But it's so interesting because when you have that attitude of gratitude, it just makes your life so much easier. It flows. Like when people call me up and say, hey, how you doing today? I always say, I'm blessed and grateful. They're like, what? I said, I'm blessed and grateful. And guess what? When I claim the blessings and the gratitude, I get more in my life to be grateful for. So yeah, so I'm 100% there on this one because gratitude is at the core of everything I do. Wellness.
I think we've talked about this one a lot already. You know, wellness, one thing I want people to remember though is our wellness is a sum of all of these things. So we have to make sure that we are being balanced in our spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, social. Make sure we're definitely being at balance. That's what's going to make us stronger. You know, not being overly physical, overly mental, overly emotional, but definitely being imbalanced.
And right now, because the last one is social wellness, right now a lot of people are struggling with the social wellness. And it's for extreme. Either people are not feeling social because they're all alone. People are feeling not social because they're isolated and you have to connect virtually. Or the flip side of that is that you have some families together that are not used to being together 24/7 and are struggling. So talk to me a little bit about the social wellness.
You know, I think you hit it right on the head. You know, social wellness, and also in our relationships to make sure that they are healthy. You know, make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with people who are helping us in our journey and who are not getting us into negative things or bringing negativity into our life.
Respect.
We talked about this one also a lot. Just one of the things that you know I want to make sure we hope to pass along is, you know, one of the ways we can show our respect for others is by listening. I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's one of the biggest things I've worked on is active listening. You know, and you know, I think you know you probably heard it a lot, but you know, not just waiting for your turn to talk, but actually listen to, you know, what people have to say. You know, that's one of the biggest things that I continue to work on now. You know, and just make sure that, you know, when we talk about respect for yourself, forgive yourself. You know, if you do something, you know, out of character, or, you know, you're tired and you're grouchy with somebody or whatever, it's okay. You know, forgive yourself and move on. You know, that's one of the ways you can have respect for yourself also.
And I like the fact that you talk about, you know, encouraging others, congratulating others. It's genuinely be happy for other people, because a lot of times what happens is that maybe something good happens to one of your friends. Some people get jealous and they turn into haters. No,
Yeah.
that's your friend. Be happy for them. Congratulate them, because I honestly believe when one rises, we all rise. And so to me, it's about really elevating that the rise for everyone. And we can be, if you're secure with yourself, you can be happy with for other people. You can be helpful with other people. You can encourage other people. It all starts to me with yourself. And once you're whole and complete and healthy and well, then it's easier to help others.
Yeah. So we talked about this also, service to others. So some of the ways that we can be of service, volunteer, whether that's with an organization, you know, or you can just do it on your own. You know, at least I would say, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks, do something, you know, for somebody in your community. Do something for your mother, you know, for our younger people, you know, do the dishes for your mom without her asking, you know, or something like that. You know, this could go a long way to helping other people's mental wellness. Another way is mentorship. You know, help somebody in your area, you know, who is maybe they're applying for college or you know, looking for a job. You know, let's make sure that we're passing along, you know, all the great, you know, wealth of knowledge that we have to the next generation.
No, I love the point about, well, obviously volunteer, because I've done a lot of volunteer work throughout my years, but mentorship is so important to me. I mentor a lot of young women in particular, sometimes guys, but mostly young women. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about mentoring others, because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to guide me, and it made it that much more difficult. So if I can turn around and help somebody and mentor them and guide them, then and make their life easier, then that makes me feel good, because I know that I didn't have it, and I wish I would. I wish somebody would have shown me the way, but I had to figure it out myself, which made it much more difficult. So mentorship is so important. And the interesting thing about mentorship is that I'm there to, teach them and work with them, but I learn just as much from them in
Mhm.
different ways as they learn from me. So you'll find that volunteering and being of service and mentoring, it's a two-way street. Not
Yeah.
only do they get something out of it, but you get something out of it, and it makes you feel good as well.
Mhm.
And you've definitely been a mentor to me, Cynthia. Throughout this whole process, I really feel like you have helped me voice all of these things. By helping me, formulate a lot of these ideas, sharpen them, and then helping me with the platform, to reach a lot of people. So I definitely appreciate it.
Well, thank you for that. And when I do volunteer work or being of service or mentor people, I do it with no expectation.
Mhm.
Like some people will do something to get something in return, and I don't. I just give freely. But guess what? By doing that, I'm so blessed in so many ways that the creator takes care of me. And so I think that that's something that most people don't realize, is there's these universal laws of reciprocity, is that what you put out is what you get back. Not that I expect anything in return, but it just happens that way. And when you act with integrity and when you respect others, it comes back to you tenfold. So not only do you help the people, but you also help yourself as well. So, being of service is a good thing for all the way around. Okay, so lessons to take away. So we're hoping that through this conversation that we're having, that something resonates with you. So what I would like you to take away is, number one, you are a leader. We already talked about leader is ability to influence others. So you have the ability to influence others. You're a leader. So be mindful how you use your influence. Have integrity. I think we've talked about this over and over again tonight. Have integrity, be strong, and be humble. And like we just talked about in the last slide, help others. These are very simple concepts, and you'll find that once you incorporate this into your life, there's so many benefits that you receive. So Abraham, what do you want the viewers to take away?
Um, be grateful for what you have. You may not have everything you want in life right now, but what we do have is definitely a gift. And so just be grateful, for what we have. Use positive self-talk. When you're talking to yourself, having conversations with yourself, in your head, make sure you're using good words. Make sure you're using good words when you talk about yourself also, because it definitely, will form, how you view yourself. So also treat yourselves and others well. We talked about, putting good things into your body, and make sure that we're putting good things into other people, using kind words. Be of service. Whenever you have a chance, make sure that you are giving back. Everything that we have, is a gift. And so, by us being able to be of service, pay it forward, we're able to keep the circle going. And, that's how we can stay close to each other.
So I like to use use positive self-talk. What I call that is positive affirmations. So I have people actually write down positive affirmations like I am a leader, or I am confident and humble, and they really keep saying it over and over again to actually reprogram their brain.
Yep.
Because growing up, we get so much negativity, especially if you're a person of color, you're a woman, whatever. You're told you can't do this, you can't do that, and all this negative stuff. So it's up to us to reprogram our brain with the positive self talk and the affirmations, so we can believe in ourselves and we can accomplish greatness. So now that we've talked about some of the lessons, tell us what people can do on a daily basis on a move forward.
So during the pandemic, create a schedule for yourself. We may be out of work right now, may not be any school right now, but make sure that you have a routine. This can help you to maintain a sense of normalcy in your household, and will help your household to run a lot smoother. Use this time to develop a positive relationship with yourself and those around you. I've used this time, for writing, reaching out, to my friends. You always say, "Oh, I didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough time." Well, we have a lot more time now. So make sure we're checking in with those around us. Get out in nature. That's a very healing, is to get out, and enjoy all the gifts that the Creator has given us. Get out and get some exercise. Watch positive programming and not negative. Even though there's a lot of good things on Facebook, dog videos are one of my favorites. There's a lot of negative things on there also. So just make sure we're not overwhelming ourselves with negative things. So, and then support those around you. Whether it be in your house or in your community, make sure that we are lifting each other up and not holding each other down.
So I actually have one of our participants has her hand up, Jenny Estrada. So Jenny, I just unmuted you. So you have your hand up. How can we help you? Jenny, you're unmuted, so go ahead and ask your question or give your comment. Okay, I guess you must have got shy. So we have Janice Belson, who has her hand up, so we're going to allow her to talk. Let me just... Hi, Janice. Okay. For some reason, that's not coming through. So if you do have a question, now we're going to open it up for Q&A.
Let's hear. Hello.
There you go.
Oh, I want to say thank you, Cynthia and Bearpaw. And you've inspired me with some thoughts, and I will be in touch with you, Cynthia, soon. And thank you very much for what you both do. And I will be incorporating tomorrow morning, and we'll be in touch with you, Cynthia.
So
Girls.
Janice, let me ask you a question. From the presentation tonight, what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is that I'm going to be in touch with you regarding mentorship, regarding Girls Today, Women Tomorrow. But let's wait for that until I can just be in dialogue, just all of it. I have the book here, and I have read it several times and will incorporate it. But this is just gratitude to both of you and for all the work you've done. And I look forward to talking to being involved with you soon, Cynthia. Just thank you so much. This has been wonderful. This has been just wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for spending this time with us. We know your time is valuable, so we really appreciate it.
Oh, well, this is the very soul of what I think about and what I do. So, gratitude and That's it. Let other people speak. And thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jenny Estrada, you have your hand up. Would you like to speak? You just have to unmute yourself. I thought I unmuted you, but let me see if I can do that. Oh, it's not working. Okay, and I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So what I am going to do at this point is,
Oh, there you are.
here we are. And so Abraham, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, you talked on the positive affirmations, the self-talk. I think that's very important. I think that's a very good tool to use. During the pandemic, if you're struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, just make sure that we're taking the time, twice a day at least. You could do it in the morning or at night. And just take some time and say good things to yourself. You remember the all that you have overcome, and know that we're going to overcome this as well. It seems really big right now. It seems really daunting, but let's just take it a day at a time. If things, seem overwhelming, you could even take it an hour at a time. When I first quit drinking, I was sober an hour at a time because it was overwhelming for me to think about being sober for all the rest of my life. But I started with an hour at a time. I can do an hour. And then that built up to it. I can do a day at a time. So, just give yourself a break, forgive yourself, talk to yourself in a positive manner. And then if you are having trouble, make sure you reach out. It is not a weakness. Reach out to your friends. You can reach me on Facebook at any time. I'm always willing, to talk on the phone or listen to somebody. And just know that, even though these are, turbulent times, that we're all together in this and you're not alone.
Thank you for that. And so you can reach Abraham Bearpaw on Facebook. And do you want to give out your email?
Yes, my email is my last name, Bearpaw, the letter A @gmail.
Thank you for that. And our book, and I say our book because we co-authored it, Cherokee Wisdom, 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader, 2nd edition, is available on Amazon.com. It's available both in the e-version and paperback. You can reach me. My website is my name, Cynthia, CYNTHIA, M, Ruiz, RUIZ.com, CynthiaMRuiz.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm all over social media. But I hope this is the first of our conversations. I just want to say that we are both grateful for you taking the time to be with us today. Whether you're live or you're watching this on demand, we appreciate you. We're here for you. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share some wisdom from our ancestors. We hope it will help you in your life. And Wado is thank you in Cherokee. And again, I just want to give a special acknowledgement to Abraham. Thank you. I'm just so proud of the man that you've become, and the fact that you're celebrating 8-year sobriety and making your move and going back to Oklahoma. I'm just so proud of you. And this is the first of our webinars, and to be continued. And until then,
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate your time.
Cynthia, are you still there?
Yeah, but we're ending right now.
Oh, okay. I just wanted an email, but I'll find you.
Okay, bye.
Ciao. Oh, blessings, blessings, blessings.